Something had to go wrong for Lightning McQueen. And it couldn't be small, and it couldn't be something he could brush off or recover from easily. And it definitely couldn't come later in the story when he had already started to change. Because if he won that first race cleanly, confidently, without resistance, then there would be nothing left to fix, nothing left to challenge him, nothing left to interrupt the version of himself he believed in so completely. If everything worked the first time, then everything underneath that success would remain untested, unexamined, and fragile. And the story would have nowhere real to go. Think about how the movie Cars introduces him, because it skips something almost every story depends on, which is the process of becoming. We don't see him learning, we don't see him struggling, we don't see him failing and trying again. We don't even see where he came from. He just appears already fast, already famous, already competing at the highest level, as if he materialized directly into success. And at first, that feels impressive, but the more you think about it, the more it starts to feel unstable. Because when someone starts at the top, there's no visible foundation underneath them, no evidence that what they have can survive pressure. He didn't become great, he started there. And that's the problem. Because when there's no journey behind you, there's nothing to fall back on when things go wrong. And that means everything depends on one thing continuing without interruption. And that one thing is momentum. Before the final lap, McQueen is winning comfortably, almost effortlessly. Like nothing can touch him, like everything is working exactly the way it's supposed to. And that's exactly when the risk is highest, because comfort creates blind spots. His crew calls him in for tires, not as a suggestion, but as a necessity, something every other car understands, something built into the system of racing itself. And he refuses, again and again, dismissing it like it doesn't apply to him, like he operates outside the rules that everyone else has to follow. And on the surface, it looks like confidence, but underneath it, there's something more fragile, because in his mind, stopping is weakness, help is weakness, and needing anything at all is weakness. And if he accepts help, even once, then the version of himself that he's built, the one that wins alone, the one that doesn't rely on anyone, starts to crack. So he keeps going, pushing forward on worn tires, and an identity that only works as long as nothing interrupts it. And for a moment, it looks like he's right, because he's still ahead, still winning. And that's what makes what happens next feel so sudden. His tires explode right at the finish line, not early enough to recover, but exactly at the moment it mattered most. The one moment where everything was supposed to come together and hold. And that timing is the entire point. Because the movie isn't punishing him for arrogance. It's exposing something deeper, something structural. McQueen didn't lose because he was too confident. He lost because he had no margin for being human. No system that allowed for error. No space for help. Look at the pattern because it's consistent. He doesn't trust his crew, he doesn't listen, he doesn't slow down, and that's not accidental, it's protective, because slowing down would force him to admit something dangerous, that he can't do this alone. And if he can't do it alone, then the identity he's built around being enough by himself starts to fall apart. And if that identity breaks, then there's a deeper question underneath it, one he's been avoiding entirely, which is, if I'm not this, then what am I? And that's a question he doesn't have an answer for. That's why the loss had to happen first, not later, not after growth, but before it. Because without that loss, there's no reason to question anything, no reason to slow down, no reason to change direction. The failure isn't a consequence of the story, it's the foundation of it. On the road to California, nothing improves. Because he hasn't understood the loss yet. He hasn't processed it. He hasn't learned from it. He's just reacting to it. Doubling down on the same mindset, forcing Mac to drive all night. No rest, no stops, just keep moving. As if motion itself can fix what just happened. And this is where the consequences spread, because the same refusal to stop that cost him the race now affects someone else. Mac falls asleep, control disappears, and suddenly McQueen is no longer in control of anything. He ends up lost, completely disconnected from the path he thought he was on, in a place he never planned to be, Radiator Springs. And Radiator Springs represents something specific, something he's been avoiding the entire time: slowing down. Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. A place where nothing moves fast enough to hide behind, where you actually have to sit with yourself. At first, he treats it like the race, because that's the only system he understands. Rush the job, finish fast, get out. Minimize the time spent, maximize efficiency, because in his mind, value comes from speed. He repaves the road the same way he raced: quick, careless, alone. And it's wrong. Not just technically, but fundamentally, because the approach itself is flawed, and they make him do it again. But this time, slower, properly, with attention, with patience, forcing him to engage with something he can't shortcut, something he can't win by going faster, something that requires presence instead of momentum. And this is where the shift begins. Not dramatically, not all at once, but quietly, through moments that don't feel important individually, but slowly build something underneath him. This is where I stop talking about a race car, because what the movie is really showing is a specific kind of success, the kind that looks complete from the outside but has nothing supporting it underneath, the kind where everything depends on constant motion. You know this version of winning, the one where everything works. You're ahead, you're faster, you're doing better than everyone else, but there's something off, something you don't examine because you don't stop long enough to notice it. You don't ask for help, don't slow down, don't stop, because stopping feels like falling behind. So you keep going even when something feels wrong, even when you're tired, even when you know this pace isn't sustainable. And from the outside, it looks like success, until something breaks, but at the worst possible moment, because there was never anything built to absorb failure. That's what McQueen's first loss really is. It's not the end of a race. It's the first time reality interrupts momentum. And without that interruption, he never ends up in Radiator Springs, never meets Mater, never understands Doc Hudson, never learns that winning alone isn't winning. The final race proves it. He's about to win again. Same position, same moment. But internally, something is different. Something grounded. The king crashes hard, and McQueen sees it not as an obstacle, not as an opportunity, but as a mirror. That's where he was headed. That's what happens when speed is the only thing holding you up. So he does the one thing the old version of him never could. He stops. Right before the finish line, he reverses, goes back, and pushes the king forward. He loses again, but this time it's a choice. The first loss was forced. The second one was understood. One exposed the problem, the other proved it was fixed. Because Lightning McQueen didn't need to learn how to win. He needed to learn how to lose without losing himself. And the only way to do that was to lose first.